There it is, the Jewel of Flushing. Sitting on Willets Point, lots of pitching for Terry Collins and Dan Warthen to talk about. Matt Harvey's Citi Field debut last night, the return of Johan Santana tonight, as the Mets all smiles as they look to get even with the Braves tonight. At Citi Field in New York, the New York Mets play the Atlanta Braves. And a pleasant good evening, everybody, and welcome to Citi Field. Gary Cohen, Ron Darling with you tonight as the Mets play the middle game of their series against the Braves. Tonight marks the return of Johan Santana from the disabled list, and Johan's already had several different seasons this year. He was the rehabbing pitcher who got off to a great start. He was the guy who made history with his no-hitter on the 1st of June. Lately, though, things have not gone well for Santana as he tries to regain the glory of that June night.
You know, you're right, Gary. The culmination of that rehabilitation, that 132nd pitch resulting in the first no-hitter in Mets history. Never was there a better time. It's one of the top 5 moments probably in the history of Flushing and New York Mets baseball, but ran into a roadblock. But you know, the thing about Santana, he gives the team a legitimacy, and I believe that they wouldn't have got off to the great start they had if they had not come out of spring training with him as their mainstay and ace.
So now the question is, we've seen the best of Santana, we've seen the worst of him this year. What can the Mets expect going forward?
Well, it's really hard to judge. In the beginning, they really kept him to like 5 or 6 innings, around 90, 95 pitches, but then he had to throw the 132. After that, he really struggled, and then also he was stepped on the ankle by Reed Johnson. We don't know what that caused, but I think when he was good, he had great fastball command. When he wasn't able to locate that fastball. The slider, his third pitch, became a very important pitch, but it's the changeup really. The difference between the speeds of the fastball and the speed of the changeup is something he's going to have to get better at as he tries to finish strong.
So all eyes on Santana tonight as he takes the mound for the Mets at Citi Field, trying to get them even in their series with the Braves. All the action coming up tonight right here on SNY. Brought to you by Dunkin' Donuts. America runs on Dunkin'. By Budweiser. By Pepsi. Get 50% off 2 tickets when you bring your 50th anniversary Mets can to the Citi Field box office. Visit Mets.com/PepsiCan for more info. by Geico. On the all-new Mazda CX-5 with 35 highway miles per gallon. And by New York 811. Before any digging project, big or small, call 811 to get your buried utility lines marked. Know what's below. Call 811 before you dig. I don't know about you, Ronnie, but I was totally distracted reading all those billboards watching the 86 highlights. Get to Citi Field this Wednesday at 8 p.m. for an international soccer match featuring the national teams from Ecuador and their South American rival, Chile. Call 718-507-TIXX or visit tickets.com now for your tickets. Let's look at your Mets' upcoming schedule. You can listen to every Mets game on Sports Radio 66 WFAN. ESPN has the reins for the Sunday night game tomorrow night. We'll be back with you Tuesday night from Cincinnati when the Mets play the first-place Reds. Then they go on to Washington to play the first-place Nationals. A big road trip for the Mets. A big night tonight for Johan Santana, coming back after 3 weeks on the sidelines, hoping to be better than ever. Mets and Braves from Citi Field. First pitch is coming right up. Eating contest outside the Mets Plaza. The winner was Joe Manchetti, who ate 15 burgers in 5 minutes. That's right, 15 burgers in 5 minutes. Go, guys, go. Brooklyn Burger, the official burger of the New York Mets. Now, here's the untold story about Joe. He actually competed in another burger eating contest earlier today in which he ate a 9-patty burger in 2 minutes and 7 seconds. And then he came out here and won his second competition of the day.
You know, I know Keith might be in the truck. That's the first time I've ever seen him here before 5 o'clock. That's pretty amazing.
Well, the burgers are very important to him. You know, Keith's Grill is located on the field level beyond Section 132 and the promenade level behind home plate. There's your Hyundai Braves starting lineup. Chipper Jones and Brian McCann. Both were out with minor hurts last night. Both are back in there today, presenting a more formidable challenge for Johan Santana tonight as he faces the Braves for the 4th time this season.
It's pretty interesting. You see Santana waited until the first pitch ceremonies took place so he could come out and not be around, that kind of stuff, go about his business. He's trying to get his record equal to 7-7, looking for his 100 and 40th win in his career. And of all the teams that he has, he doesn't have any teams he really struggles against, but it has been Atlanta. 15 games, all starts in his career, and he's only 3-8.
And his starts against the Braves this year have kind of been a microcosm of his season. He started out against them on opening day here through 5 scoreless innings as the Mets swept the Braves on that opening series, but then they beat him up in Atlanta a couple of starts later, and then again during his rough stretch right before he went on the DL.
Well, here's going to be his defense behind Johan this evening. Hairston's going to be in left field. Baxter in right field, flanking Andres Torres, who's become the mainstay in center field. Right, those 2 Gold Gloves, and I think he's going to win one this year, or he should. Tejada Murphy up the middle, Ike Davis, of course, at first base, and Josh Tolley doing the catching.
Chipper Jones, who sat out with a sore back last night, must have had a better night's sleep last night.
Brought in a new mattress. Yeah, so he's much better now.
Bed board.
Yeah, there you go.
Inside pitch on Johan Santana, brought to you by the Xerox Business of Baseball. Xerox, ready for real business.
Well, that'll be the key for Santana. Can he get that fastball inside for strikes to both the right-handers and the left-handed hitters? Johnson versus Santana. So odd that Matt Diaz always owns Santana. They trade for Reed Johnson, and he's another guy that hits over 500 in his career and finished the year like he started it. So good the first couple of months. Finished strong. Maybe give him a couple of starts off in September and comes back and has a big year next year.
Well, his real troubles. I mean, a lot of people talked about the 134 pitches and the no-hitter and how he didn't pitch well after that. The fact is he did rebound, had a couple of tremendous starts, including 8 scoreless against the Dodgers in late June, I should say. But then in July, made 3 starts, got stepped on by Johnson, and really from the time he hurt his ankle on, really could not pitch the same way, and that's why finally they shut him down. Michael Bourne leads things off against Santana. Bourne 0 for 2 with 3 walks last night. He takes the first pitch of the game, a fastball for a strike, and already Santana throwing a little harder than he was before he went down.
Terry Collins said in Brooklyn when he made those 3 innings of a rehab start, he hit 90 on the gun.
Pulled through the hole, and Bourne's got a leadoff base hit. So Michael Bourne has been doing a great job at the top of the batting order, has his 136th hit. Now Santana will face Reed Johnson, who was the guy who was involved in spraining Johan's ankle right here.
Well, off the end of the bat, and Santana tries to make the bare hand play because the ball is behind him, and you can see it could have been much worse. His ankle was turned on its side. Johnson not trying to spike him, but could not avoid him.
Since then, Reed Johnson has changed uniforms, coming over from the Cubs to the Braves at the trading deadline, and just had insult to injury. Johnson has some of the best numbers against Santana of any hitter who's ever faced him. 16 for 31. That's a .516 average against him, with a couple of home runs, and he takes a fastball for a strike. This is the 5th game for Johnson since joining the Braves. That's a terrific pickup. You know, when you talk about deadline pickups, a lot of times you focus on the stars. Sometimes it's the role players who can be just as important. The Braves, a very left-hand oriented team, and they get a guy who can swing from the right side, give them speed and defense. Rolls over toward the hole, past right. Tejada has no play. It's an infield hit for Johnson. Well, Santana threw a terrific pitch, but Johnson just found the space.
Well, this is what happens when you have a guy's number. It just seems like even when you don't hit the ball hard, you place it perfectly. David couldn't get it because he's playing even with the bag with Johnson's speed. And by the time Tejada gets to it, no chance to get Johnson at first.
So 2 ground balls, 2 hits against Santana, and he's immediately faced with a crisis with Jason Hayward coming up. Hayward delivered the keynote last night against Matt Harvey, a 2-run homer on the first pitch he saw, and the Mets were never able to respond as they lost that game 4-0.
Interesting if Santana will counter with a little slider here. First pitch after Hayward, like you said, hit the first pitch out of the ballpark last night.
And Johan indeed starts him off with a slider, and he fouls it off.
Well, what can you say? You got a red hot hitter, a guy who's come back all the way from a tough season last year and took advantage of the young Harvey.
Hayward had turned 23 years of age day before yesterday. Now with 19 home runs for the year. You see his numbers against Santana. Not quite Reed Johnson's numbers. And Johan throws the fastball by him, and there's 90 miles an hour.
Well, this is what the Mets pitching staff did to exploit Hayward in that first series here. They threw that fastball up in the strike zone.
Now Santana ahead 0-2. And the slider got him. That's the first out of the night. So Santana makes quick work of Hayward.
That was a beautiful sequence of pitches. That fastball up, followed by that nice slider out of the strike zone.
So one away, now Chipper Jones. Chipper winding down the last couple of months of his big league career and hoping to lead his team into another postseason. At age 40, he is having a tremendous last year, if indeed he sticks to his guns and makes this his final season. First and second and one out. And Chipper takes the changeup way up and away for ball one. Chipper's had a couple of stints on the disabled list this year. Had a torn meniscus in spring training that set him back. But when healthy this year, he has been the linchpin of the Braves offense again. 316, 10 homers, 48 RBIs. And swinging well from both sides of the plate. And, you know, that's not always been the case with Chipper. There have been years when, as a right-hand batter, he has struggled. That's not the case this year.
And that's important in this division, of course, facing pitchers like Santana, Cole Hamels.
464 career home runs, 49 of them against the Mets. Santana behind on Chipper 2-0. And he throws his first fastball to Chipper after starting him off with a couple of changeups. 2-1.
Key for Chipper right-handed is you have to throw the ball away. He likes the ball middle of the plate in, and he's looking to hit a home run in this one just away enough. All the way down the end of that bat.
Now on 2-1, check swing foul ball on the changeup, and it's 2-2. You know, even though, as you look at the numbers on Chipper, 8-time All-Star, batting champion, 464 home runs, closing it on 2,700 hits.
Well, the defense, you can't get any straighter up than the Mets are playing. Ike Davis, though, off the bag, trying to eat up that hole between first and second.
Now the 2-2, and he struck him out with a high fastball. So back-to-back strikeouts for Santana as he gets Hayward and Chipper Jones, and now there are two out.
You can already tell he has a little more on the fastball. Gets behind Chipper Jones, though. Bad changeup, and then here a changeup just down the Chipper's takes. That was the key pitch. They get back in the at-bat, a foul tip on the changeup, and then going upstairs with that fastball with something on it.
So now 2 out and 2 on, and Freddie Freeman the batter. Freeman 1 for 4 last night. And he pulls one past a diving Davison down the line, and that'll bring in Bourne with the first run of the game. Played in the corner by Baxter. Now Johnson being waved home, and he will score without a throw. It's a 2-run double for Freddie Freeman, and the Braves, just like last night, jump in front 2-0.
Well, coming into this game, Freddie Freeman, when he swings at the first pitch and puts it into play, is hitting .547. That gets a little better here against Santana. Fastball up in the strike zone. He's ready for it. And just this BB that just gets past Ike Davis. Good reaction by Ike, but just hit too hard.
So Freeman with a big first inning hit. Santana gave up a couple of soft hits to start the inning, struck out Hayward and Jones, but then Freeman drives home a couple to put the Braves in front early. Now Brian McCann, who sat out with a sore shoulder last night, and he takes a slider for a strike. McCann hitting just .241, but 18 home runs, leading National League catchers. 57 runs batted in.
Well, this is the one thing that has been different from McCann since his first couple of seasons. Always a big shift. Not in the outfield, but of course in the infield.
Knocked down by Tolley, a ball and a strike. Well, notwithstanding the fact that the Braves have beat Santana up a couple of times this year, their only vulnerability has been to left-handed pitching. It's a team that's 18 games over 500, but they're 5 games under 500 when a lefty starts against them, and you can understand why. They are such a left-hand dominated team. Late on that fastball, and they've been consistently late on Santana's fastball. It's 1-2. Well, the Mets lately have not been responding well when the opponent scores first. Their 2 wins when the opponent scores first since July 1st, it's actually since June 1st, is the fewest in the major leagues. Now the 1-2, and it's fouled back. Think about this. Since June the 1st, the Mets have only won twice when the opponent has scored first. The Pirates have won 20.
Oh, wow.
20.
I was going to say Oakland's got to be high in that list also.
Every other team in the majors has at least 5 such wins in that span. The Mets have only 2. So when they've fallen behind early, they have not responded well, at least not lately. Early in the season, they were doing very well in those games.
These are 2 teams traveling in different places. 19-8 since the All-Star break for the Braves, 8-19 for the Mets.
Santana trying to put the inning to bed, ahead 1-2, and McCann pops one up. Who's going to call? Ike Davis with the biggest glove. Grabs it to retire the side. But Freeman's 2-out 2-run double gives the Braves the early 2-0 lead. One day in the 2-hole, Ruben Tejada moves back up to leadoff, and Andres Torres down to 7. Scott Hairston getting a start against a right-hander, not Jordany Valdespin today, as the Mets go up against the 5'10" right-hander from California, Chris Medlin.
Well, he pitches against the Mets like he's 6'6", doesn't he? I mean, 9 in the 3rd innings of relief so far this year, only giving up a run. They've tried to make him in as a starter a couple times in the minor leagues, and then 2 years ago, before he had Tommy John surgery, he had made 14 starts for Atlanta. But in 20 starts with the Atlanta Braves, they're 16-4.
In fact, they've won the last 13 games that Medlin has started. Ruben Tejada leads off, had his 14-game hitting streak stopped last night when he went 0 for 4. And Medlin starts him off with a fastball for a strike. It'll be Tejada, Murphy, and Wright for the Mets in the opening inning. Mets have seen plenty of Medlin over the last few years. In fact, it was against the Mets that he blew out his elbow, leading to the Tommy John surgery a couple of years ago. And Tejada lifts one foul, and it's 0-2.
Pitching coach for the Braves, Roger McDowell, when he first came over, asked all the pitchers, what pitch can they go to under crucial circumstances. Everyone said, fastballs, coach, curveball. I like to go to my split finger. Medlin said, I can go to any pitch. That shows you the kind of confidence he has, even though he's 5'10".
Not an overpowering pitcher.
but good command and pounds the strike zone, and Tejada fouls back the fastball, and it's 0-2. Well, Medlin missed almost all of last year, came back late in the season, made a couple of appearances, and they worked him out of the bullpen this year because, frankly, when the year began, they were loaded in the starting rotation. But what a change has occurred over the course of the season for this Atlanta pitching staff, and yet they seem to have gotten better and better.
Well, you know what's interesting is that Mike Minor and Randall Delgado got off to a quick start. Then they really hit the skids, and they sent him down at the end of May to go down and try to make 3 starts and be ready to come back. By the time he came back, Delgado and Minor were throwing well again, so back to the bullpen.
Then they lost Brandon Beachy for the season after he got off to a great start. Tim Hudson, who had been out early, came back. Jair Jurgens struggled early, got sent to the minors, and then came back, went to the bullpen, and now he's hurt. Tommy Hansen's on the disabled list now, although he should be back fairly soon. So they've had a lot of flux in that rotation. Now the 2-2, and Tejada grounds one to the shortstop Yanish, and he comes in to get it. 1 away.
They should, of course, like Braves defense. Johnson in the left field. Prado getting the night out. Bourne and Hayward. Chipper Jones, 231st career start versus the Mets. Wow. Paul Yanish, Uglin, Freeman, the rest of the infield, and Brian McCann. With that sore shoulder, he had a shot, gave him 3 days off, and now back in the lineup.
Here's Daniel Murphy, moved up to the 2-hole tonight after hitting 5th yesterday. Murphy has had a very nice year when you look at everything considered. Hitting over 300. He's got 40 extra base hits now. He's hitting 370 over his last 37 games. And he hits one right back to Medlin. Broke his bat in the process, and Medlin makes the play for the second out.
Well, I look at it this way. How many second basemen are going to have that kind of offensive year this year in baseball? Not very many.
Well, the only thing you're not getting from Murphy offensively is power.
Yeah.
He's got 4 home runs.
Well, 33 doubles, though, means something to me, and almost 50 driven in.
Now David Wright, 0 for 3 last night, as David continues to scuffle his way through the post All-Star break portion of the season. Still 6th in the National League in batting at .324. Just 1 for 10 in his career against Chris Medlin. And the curveball in for a strike. And so we've already seen the full repertoire from Medlin in this first inning.
And what he does reminds me of a lot of older pitchers. It's not max effort on every pitch. He is just trying to place the ball where he wants to, change speeds, placement over exertion.
And such a valuable guy to have in your staff because he can fill virtually any role that Freddie Gonzalez needs him in. Of course, they don't really need a closer.
Yeah, they're good.
They've got that covered.
That 9th inning's pretty good. 8th inning is pretty good too. Oh, that's right. The 7th is not bad.
Now Medlin ahead 1-2, and the breaking ball strikes out right to end the inning. So a couple of ground balls and a strikeout, and the Mets are out 1-2-3 in the bottom of the first. Santana back to the mound, 2-0 Atlanta. by Twisted Tea Hard Iced Tea. 1962, the Mets got Harry Cheedy from Cleveland for a player to be named later, and then they sent Harry Cheedy to Cleveland as the player to be named later.
That is hilarious.
The only man in history, as far as we know, to be traded for himself. Dan Uggla leads off against Johan Santana in the second inning. Uggla 1 for 2 last night, a 2-run homer against Josh Edgin that put the game away. And he takes it high for ball 1. Uggla has had pronounced lack of success against Santana. He's 1 for 21 in his career against Johan. The one hit was a home run. And the changeup misses 2-0. Paul Janisch to follow, and then Chris Medlin for the Braves in the second. Santana, despite giving up 2 runs in the first inning, looked awfully good. Throwing his fastball well as that one rides inside, and it's 3-0. Got a couple of soft hits against him. Looked like he was going to get through the inning, but Freddie Freeman, who has just been terrific, drove in a couple of runs with a hard hit double to put Santana back on his heels.
I know Greg Walker, the hitting coach for Atlanta Braves, just loves the work ethic of a lot of these Braves. Uggla, but just really enjoys working with Freeman, who's cut from that old school.
And that's ball 4. So Uggla, who walked a couple of times last night and leads the National League in walks, is on base to start the second. That's 70 walks now for Uggla, more than he had all of last year. Now Paul Janisch, the shortstop and number 8 hitter, has been doing a nice job defensively since they picked him up from Cincinnati. It was very much a need trade after Tyler Pasternicki began the year as the Braves shortstop and struggled. Andrelton Simmons came up, did a great job, and then broke his finger. Jack Wilson hurt his finger as well, and so they got Janisch. And he takes a fastball for a strike.
It's nice when your offense is strong enough that you can just have a guy who's going to make all the plays, whether a bat's coming at him or not.
Well, that was something last night.
It really was.
Poked into shallow center field, and that'll drop for a base hit. Uggla turns second. He'll go on to third. Torres, surprised by it, throws to third, and now into second base goes Janisch. Well, Torres got shocked by the fact that Uggla tried to go first to third, reacted too late, and it cost the Mets an extra base.
Well, what happens here is Torres, when he gets to the ball, he was deked by Uggla. Uggla, when he got to second base, started to look like he was going to slow down. Watch him. He looks like he's going to slow down, and then he turns it on. So he deked Torres, and that resulted in him going from first to third.
And enabled Janisch to get to second base on the play.
Well, this is a heads-up base runner. Not running too hard there, but then realizes he deked his own player, did Uggla. But Janisch was able to get the second.
This will bring the infield in, second and third, and nobody out, with the pitcher Medlin at the plate. 1 for 9 this year. And fouls back the first pitch fastball. So, as was the case in the first inning, a soft hit by Janisch, setting the table for the Braves against Santana in the second. Medlin has 2 RBIs in his career, none this year. A chance for 1 here with Michael Bourne on deck. Four hits now off Santana, and totally down in the dirt to stop that slider. 2-1.
He only had those 3 innings in Brooklyn, and so far fastball's had something on it, but a little rusty with the control.
Well, Johan struck out a couple in the first inning. He's in a situation that begs for a strikeout here. 2-1 to the opposing pitcher, and Medlin fouls it back, and it's 2-2. Now, we were talking in the last inning about the Braves and the vagaries of their rotation this year. I think it's interesting to point out that an Atlanta team that appears headed toward a possible postseason berth, 65-47 on the year, they had an 8-game losing streak in May. They had a stretch in June when they lost 7 of 8, but they've been able to rebound each time. and I think it's an instructive lesson about how seasons go. That one's poked through the hole, and Medlin's got a base hit. Uggla's in to score. Giannis stops at third. Well, Medlin with his first RBI of the year, a very soft hit through the drawn-in infield to make it 3-0 Atlanta.
Well, the last 2 hits, you couldn't hit him any softer. It's like you rolled it between the 2 fielders. Baxter was playing extremely shallow, so Giannis did not score.
This game so far is reminiscent of that game that Johan pitched against the Braves in Atlanta in April. It was, I think, what, his 3rd start of the year, and he got dinked and dunked for 6 runs in an inning and a third, just like this. Now Michael Bourne, who started it off with a ground ball single into right. Mets have the infield at double play depth with 1st and 3rd and nobody out. And Bourne takes a letter high strike. Didn't think so. Chad Fairchild, the home plate umpire, gets a bemused look.
Bordering on incredulous, right?
And that slider just missed. A ball and a strike to Bourne. Reed Johnson, the on-deck batter. So it's been a very tough to judge first couple of innings for Santana coming off the disabled list. Certainly looks healthy and looks like he's throwing hard. This one's rocketed to right center field, and that'll be down for a base hit. That'll bring in Giannis with the 2nd run of the inning. Medlin stops at 2nd. Bourne with a solid single to drive in a run, and it's 4-0 Atlanta.
Well, they seem to be on everything from Santana. And Gary, you mentioned that 3rd start when they had all those hits against Santana. Sometimes it just seems when you get off to a quick start, even against a great pitcher like Santana, you have that confidence rolls all season long.
So the first 4 hitters in the 2nd inning have all reached base, and now Santana's personal nemesis, Reed Johnson, steps in. He rolled one to the left side of the infield that just snuck past right for an infield hit in the 1st inning.
Even though it's 4-0, you can still Johnson could lay down a bunt here, moving the runners along.
And Santana got into his hands that time, and he fouled it off. Reed Johnson, now 35 years old. Look at those numbers for Santana. Those last 3 starts before going on the DL against the Cubs and the Braves and the Dodgers. Only the 3rd Met pitcher in history to allow 6 or more earned runs in 3 straight starts. It happened to Bobby Jones in 1995 and to Pedro Estacio in 2002. One and one to Reed Johnson. Dan Warthen didn't want to be on the phone this early, but we'll get some stirring around in that Mets bullpen now. Now it's 1-1 to Johnson, and he fouls it back. Change up from Santana, 1-2. Reed Johnson acquired in the same deal from the Cubs that brought the Braves Paul Maholm, who pitched an absolute gem last night right at the trading deadline, and Jeremy Hefner up early in the Mets bullpen. Santana desperately needing an out, ahead on Reed Johnson, 1-2. And he comes inside with a fastball, 2-2. It's got to be awfully frustrating, Ronnie. You come back from the DL, you know that you're feeling stronger, you're feeling better, and yet this befalls you in the first 2 innings of the game.
And listen, yeah, you're giving up a couple of cheap hits here and there. You're giving up some line drives, and you can't find your way out the door. That's what it feels like. Back inside with a fastball.
Popped up in foul ground. Davis coming over and has room to make the catch for the first out of the inning. So Johnson is retired, and Santana finally finds that the initial out in the second, and Jason Hayward will come up. But it's got to be particularly galling when you've been sitting out. You know that you were compromised your previous 3 starts. Your team has been struggling so badly. They've been looking forward for you to come back, and then all of a sudden you get poked to death in the first couple of innings.
Well, that's the problem. You feel that responsibility that you're going to come back and start a streak going the opposite direction.
So here's Hayward, who struck out his first time up. And takes the slider off the plate for ball 1. Hayward hitting just .228 against left-handed pitching, and you look up and down this Braves lineup with all these left-handed bats. That's been the issue for them. That one's ripped into right center, a base hit for Hayward. Medlin around third, he'll be waved home. Bourne goes first to third. 3 runs home in the second inning for Atlanta. It's now 5-0. Hayward drives in his 57th run of the year, and Dan Warthen set to pay a visit.
Well, again, we talk about this all the time. It doesn't matter if you are one of the best pitchers in baseball or a call-up. If you throw too many balls in the middle of the plate, this is going to be the result, and that's what's happened to Santana these first 2 innings. The thing is, Gary, is that one of the things that Santana's struggling with is that he's a different pitcher. And he's had a career of such greatness that to come to some games and have to use a trickery to get hitters out, to use your 3rd pitch to get people out when he spent an entire career with 2 pitches blowing people away. That transition happens almost for every pitcher in the history of the game, and it's a hard transition.
And yet it seemed in the first 2 months of the season as though he had almost conquered that issue, the fact that he was not going to throw as hard as he used to, and came to the party with a little different weaponry.
I think I also saw the same thing in a Met uniform for Pedro Martinez. What happens is that you have an entire baseball card full of greatness, and then you start to chip away at that armor, and then you lose a little bit of the shine. And these hitters that are facing him, they're not going to bow and say, the great Santana, you get us out. The tide has changed.
Well, Santana, even before the elbow surgery, had the knee that he pitched on in 08 so valiantly. The elbow surgery that curtailed his season in 09. And then the major shoulder surgery that caused him to miss all of the 2011 season, before he came back so completely, it seemed, the first 2 months of this year. And Chipper goes the other way, and he's got a base hit. Michael Bourne in to score, and it's 6-0 Atlanta. The 5th hit of the inning for the Braves, and that's going to be all for Santana. A game eerily reminiscent of that game in April in Atlanta, when he lasted just an inning and a third, faced 7 batters in the second inning and retired only 1 of them. The exact same scenario tonight, as Santana will exit after the Braves build a 6-0 lead. Certainly not what the Mets were hoping for from Santana's return from the disabled list. And so Johan will take an early shower, and the Mets will go to the bullpen. Brought to you by Verizon Wireless. Win Mets memorabilia from Verizon at Mets.com/Verizon Sweeps. Jeremy Hefner coming on for Santana. We'll be right back. Jeremy Hefner on relief for the Mets to face Freddie Freeman, who had a 2-run double in the first inning. Ball and a strike to Freeman.
Well, Hefner, who has done a fine job this year. His last start, of course, in San Diego was, I think, his best outing all year for the Mets. And they need him to give them some innings, obviously, tonight.
He came out of the bullpen on Wednesday night in that 13-0 debacle and pitched a hitless inning against Miami. Freeman now with 71 RBIs after that 2-run double in the first. Well, the Braves started out with some fortunate hits against Johan Santana, but the faucet of hits never stopped, and they kept getting harder and harder.
I don't care how long you've played. I don't care how great you've been. Occasionally you need that manager, and these are the biggest moments. That's why the manager has to go through all that pressure. You need him to be able to comfort a pitcher in a bad moment.
Freeman hits one deep to center. Back goes Torres, looking up at the wall, and it's over the apple for a 3-run homer. A monstrous home run from Freddie Freeman to greet Jeremy Hefner. Home run number 14 for Freeman, and the Braves have scored 7 runs in the second inning and lead it 9-0. A 5 RBI night already for Freddie Freeman.
Well, fastball up behind, middle of the plate, down. Freeman is a down hitter. And that's one of the longest home runs we've seen here at center field.
Ski ball. He overshot the apple. Brian McCann, the 9th man up in the inning. Freeman with a double, a home run, and 5 RBIs in the first 2 innings of the game. McCann hits one right into the shift, and Murphy throws him out for the second out of the inning. Well, the final line on Santana will read this way: 43 pitches in an inning in the third, 8 hits, 8 runs, all earned, 1 walk, 2 strikeouts. And for a guy from whom the Mets draw considerable energy, that's a very demoralizing blow for this team.
Yeah.
Here's Ugla, who walked leading off this inning. You know what I mean? Because this team gets so much of its, I don't know, it's kind of an intangible, a swagger from Santana.
Well, when it does have swagger, they certainly have had it in the past when Santana's on the mound.
Out to right center field off the bat of Ugla, and Baxter tracks it to end the inning. But 10 Braves came to bat, and 7 of them scored. Freeman caps the inning with a monstrous 3-run homer, and Atlanta in the second inning has raced out to a 9-0 lead. it's just an inning and a third.
Well, usually what happens in these games is that, listen, this is a little dribbler to right field, but it's up. Medlin, this is about the worst swing you're ever going to see for a base hit, but that ball's up. This is middle for Michael Bourne, and then Hayward the same. So even though you look at the target and the target is down, all of those pitches were up. And even the pitch to Chipper Jones, which was on the corner, still belt high. And the result we see now.
Well, we mentioned that Chris Medlin, the last 13 times he started for the Braves, they've won. It's off to a pretty good start tonight,
right,
with a 9-0 lead in the second inning. Ike Davis sat last night against the left-hander. Ike hitting at .213, leads the team with 20 home runs. And cracks that one to left center, and that'll fall for a base hit. Well, the Mets have their first base runner of the night against Medlin as they start the long climb back into the game. And Scott Hairston will come up. Last couple of times the Mets have faced right-handed pitching, Terry Collins has opted to start both Baxter and Valdespin at the corner outfield spots. Tonight he wanted to have a lefty left on his bench, and so he started Hairston instead of Valdespin, who has done a better job coming off the bench than he has in the starting role.
Valdespin has, yeah.
Hairston at .264 on the year, 14 home runs. And he takes a fastball for a strike. Before this season, Johan Santana had never made a major league start in which he'd pitched fewer than 3 innings. Now he's gone an inning and a third twice, both against the same team. In April and again tonight against the Braves.
I made a
curveball from Medlin for ball 1.
Sorry, Gary. I made a start in Cincinnati. I forget what year it was because you try to forget these games. But 2/3 of an inning, 10 runs. They weren't all earned, but it didn't matter. And I mean, it's shocking. You can't even speak. You don't know what to say. Remember, I got on the bike as soon as I got inside, and got on that stationary bike and rode it till the end of the game because I had to do something.
Hairston lifts one out to left field, and Reed Johnson glides over and retires Hairston for the first out. Well, it's one of the very difficult things about being a starting pitcher. You know, if you're a hitter and you go 0 for 4, you get to go back out there the next night.
Right.
If you're a starting pitcher and you have one of those nights, especially one you've waited 3 weeks for, still got to wait another 5 days.
You got 4 days to think about it. No one knows what to say to you after the game when you get home. It's a very awkward kind of thing. You feel like, especially in a town that loves baseball like this, is like, you want to go out to dinner? I can't go out to dinner until I get a good start, man. I mean, I'm not going out.
Mike Baxter lines one over short for a base hit. Davis pulls in at second, and the Mets have 2 men on. So Baxter, who had struggled for a few games after coming off the DL, started on Thursday, got on base 4 times out of 5 against Miami, and gets a base hit on the first pitch he sees tonight. So now Andres Torres will bat. Andres moved up to the leadoff spot last night, went 0 for 4, right back down in the 7 hole tonight. And the breaking ball misses for ball 1. And then you've got the flip side, which is Chris Medlin, who does not have all that much experience as a big league starting pitcher. All of a sudden he has fallen into riches now with a 9-0 lead. And you gear yourself up for a start and go in with a certain game plan. All of a sudden you've got this huge lead. How much of an impact does that have on how you approach things?
Well, I think that's always the conundrum for the other starting pitcher is that, do you just fire fastballs in there? Medlin's not good enough just to throw only fastballs.
A little dribbler, and that'll stay foul.
I mean, his strength, Gary, is what we saw in the first inning. He can use all of his pitches. He can throw them to both sides of the plate. He knows how to change speeds. He's a very, very intelligent pitcher with a lot of guts. So you don't want to go out of your safety zone, and that is mixing up his pitches.
Well, the Braves have had an incredible run of success with Medlin starting games.
Where you get mixed up, 2-1 count that he would usually maybe use a changeup. He might think going fastball now.
They went with the breaking ball and falls behind on Torres, 3-1. Davis at second, Baxter at first with one out. Let's try to gather some response after the Braves put up a 7 spot in the top of the inning. And Torres takes a strike. 3-2. Andres hitting well over 300 since the All-Star break. Even picking it up a little from the left side. Remember, he had a double, triple, and home run in that game against the Marlins day before yesterday. All from the left side. And he said for a long time this year, left-handed, he had been trying to take the ball the other way. And he said, you know what? That's not me. And you noticed all 3 of his extra base hits on Thursday were pulled to right field.
Well, it might not be him, but the only problem is that he's going to see a steady diet, especially when Medlin's behind the count, fastballs.
And he hits this one toward the hole, and he gets it through Freeman and into right field. Davis being waved home. He'll score without a throw. And the Mets respond with a run of their own. Torres an RBI single. It's now 9-1.
Well, good hitting here. A little running fastball back over the plate. Gets it right past Freddie Freeman, a good fielding first baseman. And the first run for the Mets.
30th run batted in for Torres, so the Mets bunch 3 hits to plate a run. And now Josh Toley will try and keep it going. Josh, in his last start on Thursday, had a couple of RBIs. Up to 264 on the year. And he goes after the first pitch changeup, 0-1. You remember last night Chase Headley hit 2 home runs to rally the Padres over the Pirates. Hit a home run his first time up tonight against A.J. Burnett. That should be a double play. Giannis right at the bag. And the 6-6-3 double play ends the inning. So the Mets get 1 run back on Torres' RBI single. 9-1 after 2.
The thinnest family in the world letting the biggest family in the world pass.
Third inning, Paul Giannis leads off against Jeremy Hefner. Braves with a 9-1 lead. Giannis singled and scored in the second inning when the Braves put up a 7 spot against Johan Santana and Jeremy Hefner. Evening sky all mottled. Just keep the rain away.
That's right.
By the way, if you're wondering, Mets down 9-1 after 2 innings. It's not even close to the furthest the Mets were ever behind after 2 innings in a game.
Not even close.
You, of course, remember the game in Philadelphia in 1985.
That's right. Yeah, of course.
I believe it was Tom Gorman who started that game.
Yes.
And the Phillies, after 2 innings, had a 16-0 lead. 16-0. It only got better after that. 26-7, the final score.
Tom Gorman, as the starting pitcher, gave up 6 runs, right?
Murphy trailing out, gives way to Baxter, and Giannis retired for the first out.
And he didn't even have the worst outing. Calvin Schiraldi gave up 10 runs. Joe Sambito gave up 10 runs in relief.
So you're saying 3 pitchers managed to give up all 26 runs?
Yes.
That's hard.
And the star pitcher of the day, Dougie Sisk.
Yeah.
He didn't give up any runs and pitched like 3 innings or 2 innings or whatever. And this was with 2 innings. And this is when Doug was on his way to becoming not a fan favorite.
I was going to say, did he get cheered the next time he pitched at home after that?
Of course not.
Poor Doug.
Poor Dougie.
Medlin snuck a base hit into right for an RBI in the second inning. You know who finished that game, don't you? Jesse.
Oh, he did.
He did. He wasted him with the team behind by 19. By the way, we have confirmed your memory about your game in Cincinnati.
Yeah.
July 14th, Bastille Day. Or no, the 19th. I can't read Dave's handwriting. Little tapper right back to Hefner, and he makes the play on Medlin for the second out. Anyway, you were exactly right. 2/3 of an inning, 9 runs, 5 of them earned. Kevin Elster's error on the first batter of the game made 4 of those runs unearned.
It was better than I thought. I thought it was 10-6. So it was 9-5.
It's not bad.
I think Straw had an error on that inning too. You know, it doesn't really help that your brain can remember that kind of stuff. It really doesn't.
See, Straw had an error in that first inning, but I guarantee he didn't call the press box. You know the story about that, right?
Is the Bonilla story?
Yeah, it was against the Cubs at Shea. 7-run first inning. Sometime during that inning, Bonilla was charged with an error. And when that 7-run top of the first inning was over, he came into the dugout and called the press box to complain about the error.
Oh, jeez. Go team.
And then after the game, said that he had called the press box not to complain about the error, but to inquire about the health of Jay Harwitz.
Oh, he did?
Yes, because Jay had been feeling ill that morning. 2-2 to Bourne.
Usually what you do during the game anyways is get on that horn to the press box.
Bourne is 2 for 2. There's Jay in the pink today. Little dribbler by Bourne. Quick play by Davis, but not in time. After couldn't get his foot to the bag in time. And Bourne is now 3 for 3.
You know, this has become a common habit for the Mets and Ike, is that see where he leads him? He's leading him to the bag. What you need to do is close the distance as much as you can. Now, I'm not blaming this on Ike, but when you're the pitcher, you've got to get that ball and you've got to be on that base. And if you can't be on that base, you've got to wheel around with that glove and tag Bourne. That's how much speed he has. Sometimes, you know, he's just too fast.
Good call by Larry Vanover, the first base umpire. So 10 hits already for the Braves. Bourne has 3 of them, and here's Reed Johnson, who takes up and away for ball 1. Jay's got a birthday coming up, doesn't he? I think his is right before yours.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I think his is the 14th.
Okay.
And yours is the 19th.
19th, yeah, we'll be in you know, it's interesting. Well, 2 things I want to say about Bourne is he went around. Reed Johnson's not too happy with that. One is that, boy, 9-1, real gray area. I would err on not running and not trying to steal the base. Second, a 9-1 game. How about Bourne hustling down that line? pretty impressive. I know he's going for a base hit, but still.
How can you legislate against a team running when it's the third inning?
I'm not saying legislate against a team running. I'm saying he can run. I wouldn't run.
Because is that a let sleeping dogs lie kind of thing?
Yes. This game should go Atlanta's way, right? And I just I don't know. It's weird. You know, the rule would be you should absolutely be able to run and get it to a point where after 5 or 6 innings, then you shut everything down. I totally understand that. Today, the way the Braves are playing, the way the Mets have been struggling, just in this moment of time, I would not run, personally.
He's got the smallest lead in history. And it's lined down the left field line, and Johnson's got another hit. Bourne going first to third. Johnson hustling for second. Hairston's throw too late. And Reed Johnson has his second hit of the night. A 2-out double.
Well, a little ground ball infield hit off Santana, and now a jam shot down the left field line by Reed Johnson, but good hitting. He's strong, even though he's small in stature, and great hustle by Johnson to hustle it for a double.
So 2 in scoring position for Jason Hayward, who singled in a run in the second inning. 1 for 2 on the night. Braves scored 2 in the second, 7 in the second. The first 8 runs charged to Santana. The 9th run, Freddie Freeman's monstrous center field home run, charged to Hefner. And that fastball misses inside to Hayward.
You know, the one thing when I first saw Hayward come up, I thought that he was almost too patient. And now it looks like he's got the best blend. Patient on balls out of the strike zone, but attack mode, anything close.
Now, he's always stood away from the plate. Is he standing even farther away from the plate now?
He's far away from the plate, but, you know, the difference is that, you know, his arms are probably 38, 39 inches long, so it changes the whole equation.
Just seemed as though last year you could really jam him.
Yeah.
Now, to jam him, you'd have to throw the ball 2 feet inside.
Well, I know Greg Walker has worked with him to try to take the ball up the middle, in the gaps, not to try to be a pull hitter and look in occasionally. But you're right. You'd have to get way inside to jam him.
3-1 now to Hayward with Chipper Jones on deck.
I think you have to realize, even with Chipper Jones on deck and the great career he's had, you're a third place hitter. You got a pitcher out there with a base open. You're not always going to get a fastball 3-1. He's got to recognize that.
Gets the breaking ball and swings over the top of it. 3-2.
Good pitch by Hefner.
So if you throw a breaking ball 3-1, you're going to do it again 3-2.
Well, he threw the 3-1 breaking ball. He could throw the 3-2 changeup. That's a pitch that he's thrown twice already.
Weak ground ball. Davis ranging wide. This time gets the flip there on time. And Hefner avoids damage in the third inning. Still 9-1 Atlanta.
Jackie Robinson Rotunda. You can always visit the Mets Hall of Fame and Museum. They've done such a nice job of putting together different aspects of Mets history. Got interactive displays, lots of video, and of course the World Championship trophy is on hand as well.
It's interesting to see the '69 ring. It's so less ostentatious than the rings that come out today, which are probably quadruple the size of that ring you saw there.
Jeremy Hefner acting like a true long man tonight. Going to try and give the Mets multiple innings. And so he'll take the turn at bat here in the bottom of the third. And Jeremy hits one foul. His only big league hit was a home run against Joe Blanton of the Phillies the same night that Hefner got his first big league win. By the way, the last time the Mets gave up 9 runs in the first 2 innings, you got to go back 13 years. Against the Cubs in 1999, they had a game where they trailed 9-3 after 2 innings. That was not the Bonilla game. Curveball misses. It was in for a strike, 1-2 to Hefner.
It was only because he didn't make an error in that game in the first 2 innings. Bobby Bo.
Here's the 1-2. Strike 3 called, so Hefner is out on strike. Second strikeout for Chris Medlin. Ruben Tejada coming up. Let's check in with Kevin Burkhardt. Kevin?
Well, guys, I was chatting with Dan Worthen before the game about Johan Santana. He said, the good news is that his arm has not hurt at any time during this season. So with the DL stint, the ankle was certainly a factor there, and I think probably a rest. Dan said that, I think part of it is that he was worn out. Think about it, the last 3 off seasons, all he's done is rehab. Obviously come back from the major shoulder surgery. He had the meniscus, he had the bone chips. Said he spent a lot of time rehabbing, hasn't had a lot of rest, and I think just overall in general the rest was good. He said, the last couple starts, he said the ankle definitely a factor. He said, he changed that delivery just a little bit with the landing spot, and we were certainly concerned that he would change the arm ankle. So when you look at those starts, you could see how the fastball and changeup would be elevated in those starts. But Ronnie, now that the ankle is healed, it's one thing to leave a ball over the plate, but why do you think those fastballs and changeups today were so high? What is the reasoning behind that?
Well, a lot of times, Kevin, when you come back from not pitching in a long period of time, you got a lot of adrenaline. We saw that in some of his fastballs, hitting 90 on the gun today. But, Santana, what has made him great his entire career, people talk about, the great changeup and throwing 95. What's made him great, like all great pitchers, is that he had some of the most impeccable control. He's a guy that would just throw the ball on the corner time and time and time again. In fact, I remember he pitched a game in Shea Stadium, threw a shutout in 2007, I believe. I don't think he maybe had 1 strikeout or maybe 2 at the most, 12 fly ball outs.
Game against the Mets.
Yeah, against the Mets. I'm sorry. And it was the most impressive outing I've ever seen because he threw everything knees, nothing higher than that. Both corners he was pitching to, and it was just a mastery of the Mets that night. And I think that's, he knows it. Every great pitcher knows it, is that his command of especially his fastball is not where he wants it to be. And, that's going to be work he'll do in 2 days down there in the bullpen.
So, Ronnie, let me ask you one more. Being around Johan this week a lot in the clubhouse and even at his charity event the other night, he was in great spirits. You could just tell he's feeling good. He was himself. He was oozing it. So if you're him, obviously this stings, but do you look at it like, hey, a little rusty, left it up there, fastball had some zip, or are you really disturbed by this outing?
You're hot. Yeah. You're as hot can be. There's no boy, I just needed to get some work in. I'll be better next time. He doesn't walk around in those circles. He's hot. He's what anyone would be after an outing like that, and he's going to figure out in the next 4 days some answers, and that'll be through hard work like it's always been in his career.
On the flip side of that, if you're Santana, do you have cause for concern? Are you questioning yourself? Are you questioning your ability? Are you questioning the point in your career that you're at right now?
I think that anyone, I don't care how great you've been, you're only human. I mean, no one wants to go out there and give up those kind of runs. I was saying it before, and I think as Murphy grounds out here, we'll talk about it a little more after, because there's too much to finish in just 1 second.
Medlin with a 1-2-3 inning, couple of strikeouts. That gets him through the third. as the Braves sport a big lead at Citi Field. Chipper Jones leads off the 4th inning against Jeremy Hefner. And Chipper batting left-handed for the first time tonight. Rolls one easily for Hefner, 1 pitch and 1 out. Sunday, Mike Baxter looks back on how he became an important part of Mets history, plus get an in-depth look at R.A. Dickey's stellar season on Mets Weekly, presented by W.B. Mason. New episodes Sunday at 6:30, only on SNY. Now, Freddie Freeman's already got a big night going. 2-run double in the first inning to open the scoring, and then a 3-run homer in the second inning that's capped a 7-run inning. So it's a 5 RBI night for Freeman, who's up to 74 runs batted in on the season. And he takes a fastball strike from Hefner, 1-1. So we were getting back to Santana and the questions that he has to be asking coming out of this start today.
Yeah, I think that, and I'm sure he's going to be talking with the manager and the pitching coach, and I think Johan spent a lot of his career with great fastball, great changeup, 2 of the best pitches in his generation of pitchers. He's incorporated, a slider into the mix more. That turning the ball over in the slider sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes can take away your feel, as Freeman grounds out to Tejada, take away from your changeup because it's the opposite motion. You're trying to throw one on the outside of the ball and you're trying to get it on the inside of the ball. So it might be, you might try to make a decision as they make a transition here that maybe fastballs in to lefties, changeups in. That'll be a sequence of pitches he can maybe go to. But again, it all gets back, I believe, to his fastball. And when he's on the knees and he's painting inside and he dots the outside corner once in a while and gets one thinking fastball and then throws that changeup down the dirt, he's at his best. And he knows that. And it's going to take some work to get there.
So does it become a mechanical issue more than anything?
I think it's mechanical, but it's also, and it happened to Pedro when he was here, when you reach back for a little extra, because that's what made those guys great. And when guys are on second and third and it's the 7th inning and there's 2 outs and you need to get this out, they have the rare ability to reach back and get something extra. Well, that is going to happen at times. It's not going to happen all the time. And that's one of the transitions that all pitchers have to make. I mean, I shouldn't say all. Almost every pitcher has to make at some point.
And the question then becomes, if you do reach back, A, how much does it take out of you, and B, can you command it when you do?
Well, I think that it's going to come a point for all guys where the time when you have to add on, you're going to have to start to subtract.
Davis makes the unassisted put out on McCann. 3 ground ball outs for Hefner, keeping it a 9-1 game in the 4th. Record for doubles in a season in 1996. We've referenced him a couple of times this year because David Wright and Daniel Murphy both have a shot of breaking that record this year.
Right-handed hitter?
Yep.
Okay, got it.
1996 was a very interesting year for the Mets because the Mets weren't a very good team.
Yeah.
And yet they had 3 players have extraordinary seasons. This guy, Todd Hundley, who had 41 home runs that year to set the Mets club record and break the record for home runs by a catcher in a season at the time. And Lance Johnson, who had 227 hits, 21 triples. And yet the Mets went nowhere in 1996. David Wright leads off in the home 4th and takes high for ball 1.
You know, I was thinking about that for last season. Not a strong season for the Dodgers. They had the Cy Young. They could have had the MVP. And the Mets could have a Cy Young. And R.A. Dickey.
And there was a time this year before he started to slump a little bit that David Wright might have been an MVP candidate. Still might get back to that, but he's got to get it going now. Like Davis on deck, Scott Hairston behind him. David fouls it off 1-2. One thing we saw in his first at bat today, something we saw a lot of from David last year and the year before, just chasing pitches out of the strike zone, which he was not doing at all early in the season.
You know, that's all the the phrases, picking up the baseball, all those things that you see, and he's not seeing that curveball at all from Medlin.
4th strikeout for Medlin, 2nd time he's gotten right.
You know what I'm seeing for David, and that's a really outstanding curveball, is that he's just kind of in between. That fastball, he's fouling over the dugout. You certainly didn't see that earlier in the season.
Now Ike Davis is singled to center and scored the only Met run in the 2nd. And Ike takes the curveball for a strike, and it's 1-1. And Medlin has seemed to be able to throw that curveball for a strike anytime he's wanted to. 26-year-old Chris Medlin, 10th round pick by the Braves back in '06. Coming out of junior college in California.
Santa Ana Junior College. You don't know if it's happenstance or good drafting or, well, these Braves pitchers come up, they got a real good idea of how to get hitters out.
Well, they have had such a wealth of young pitching talent in their organization that they were able to trade a pitching prospect, Aridis Vizcaíno, in the deal that brought them Paul Maholm and Reed Johnson at the trading deadline. And, that's why teams try to make sure that when they build their farm systems, they don't only build enough pitching, they build more than enough pitching. So that they have enough to compensate for injuries, but also enough to be able to use pitchers in deals. Because sometimes that's where you reap the greatest rewards in the trading market. I mean, it's what the Giants did by trading Zach Wheeler. They had enough pitching in their organization. They felt that they could do that to make a run last year. Didn't work out for them. Fastball inside, and Davis is on with a 1-out walk. First walk given up by Medlin.
Well, the pitching is so precious, and you have to account for injuries. You have to account for slow development. You've got to account for no development, because some young pitchers you're going to draft. I saw a number, forget it, and I'll try to relate it to another program, but I mean the rate of high school pitchers having a 15-game winning season in the major leagues is so low you can't believe it. I'm talking about high drafted players.
Well, that's why numbers of prospects are so important. And the Mets have some tremendous pitching prospects at the upper levels of their farm system now. Harvey's already here. Wheeler is on the horizon. As you look at Roger McDowell and what he's been able to do as a pitching coach since joining the Braves, who have such a great tradition with their pitching. Hairston takes it high 1-1. But the Mets they've got Wheeler, and they've got Familia, and they've got Mejia, and they've got a lot of terrific young pitching talents at the top of their organization. But don't think for a minute that the Mets aren't thinking every day about how to add more young pitching talent to the organization through the draft, through trades, however they do that.
Yeah, and I think also for fans, sometimes when you hear so much about the young pitchers, you just assume they're all going to be great.
Right.
Well, that doesn't always work out either.
Well, the Mets should know that better than anybody. They tried to hang their hat on their young pitching in the mid-'90s, and it just didn't work out that way. They have the fancy nickname Generation K for Paul Wilson was the #1 pick in the draft. You look at Wheeler, who makes his second AAA start tonight, and you see what he's done so far.
Nice numbers.
Nice numbers indeed. Paul Wilson was the #1 pick in the draft. Everybody in baseball thought that he was going to be a huge success, and he turned out to have a couple of decent years in Cincinnati, but was never the pitcher he was supposed to be, mostly because of injury. Bill Pulsifer was an exciting pitcher as Hairston strikes out for the 2nd out, but he really never made it. Jason Isringhausen got off to a great start in his career and ultimately found success in the bullpen, but only after the Mets had dealt him away. So, what was supposed to be the core of their team in the mid-'90s melted away in a couple of years and never worked out.
I think for young pitching, even if they have great numbers in the minor leagues, really have to just watch them develop here, and hold your comments about them until they've pitched 400-500 innings.
Bourne squeezes Baxter's fly ball. Another scoreless inning for Chris Medlin. Mets down 9-1 after 4. Motion is brought to you by your Mercedes-Benz Tri-State dealers. Visit them on the web at searchmercedes.com. Fifth inning, Dan Uggla leads off against Jeremy Hefner, who's already pitched 2 2/3 in long relief after Johan Santana got knocked out in the second inning. Uggla has walked and flied out. Both those plate appearances came in that 7-run second. And Hefner, with the breaking ball, gets even 1-1. Uggla, Janisch, and Medlin 7, 8, and 9 in the Atlanta batting order in the fifth. Santana took it on the chin for 8 runs and 8 hits over an inning and a third today. And what was a stellar start to his season is now fallen into 4 straight starts in which he's allowed 6 or more earned runs. And a fastball, strike 2 and 2. Now the 3-2 from Hefner, and the curveball bounced foul. Jeremy's gotten ground ball outs from each of the last 4 batters he's faced. And Uggla hits a rocket down the left field line, but that hooks and goes foul. Uggla hit his 13th home run of the year last night against Josh Edgin. 8th pitch of the at bat from Hefner, and he lines that one into left field for a base hit. It's a terrific turn at bat for Dan Uggla, and he's aboard with a leadoff single. 4th hit in relief given up by Hefner, and the Braves' 12th hit of the night. Now Paul Janisch, the number 8 hitter. The Braves start the night 4.5 games behind the Nationals, who are playing in Arizona tonight. They are 1-1 early on. National League standings brought to you by Dunkin' Donuts. A 2-team race in the National League East. Nats have won 7 straight starting play tonight. And in case you missed it, we talked about it briefly last night. Steven Strasburg, who won his 13th last night, his innings limit has been bumped up from 160 to 180.
Tied with R.A. Dickey for the strikeout lead in the National League, 166 each.
Chris Medlin, the pitcher, on deck. Fly ball out to Torres in center field. And that's the first out of the inning. Janisch retired. 1 out and 1 on. In the Central Division, the Reds won again this afternoon. Got 3 in the 8th to beat the Cubs 4-2. Pirates have not gotten a hit yet against Jason Marquis. They're down 4-0 to the Padres in the 6th inning. The Cardinals continue to hit, but they're a bit of an enigma this year.
Well, Alosha's had a good year as starting pitcher. Their bullpen has not been what it was last season, especially at this time.
Medlin bunts it right in front of the plate. Tolley turns down the play at second and takes the sure out at first. 2-3 on the sacrifice, moving Uggla to second.
Watch the secondary lead of Uggla, even in a big lead like this. He gets such a great secondary lead and takes off that Tolley thought the better of it. He probably might have had him at second base, didn't want to take a chance. He gets the sure out at first. That's great hustle.
So 2 out, Uggla still at second. And now Michael Bourne, who has singled 3 times, scored 2, driven in 1. Chance for a 4th hit of the game in the 5th inning. You don't get that very often. There are the standings in the National League West. Up to the moment, with the Giants winning this afternoon behind Matt Cain, they go a half game in front. The Diamondbacks still hanging around.
Padres has played better, and the Rockies just having a miserable year.
Although they got a very well pitched game last night. Shut out the Giants. Tyler Chatwood, 5 scoreless innings. But that's been a rare event for the Rockies this year.
Well, the Dodgers did a nice job of just withstanding, not playing with Kemp and Ethier for all that time, and still now back in the race.
Well, now they've got Kemp, Ethier, and Hanley Ramirez in the middle of that lineup. And Hanley went back to Miami for the first time last night and had a big night. Hefner ahead on Bourne 1-2. And that just missed 2-2. We were talking about the Cardinals. You know, they're 9 games over 500, and they're certainly in line for the potential wild card, especially if the Pirates fade, which I think a lot of people are expecting.
Well, Beltran's having an outstanding year. So is Holiday. Matt Holliday's having an amazing year offensively.
If they could ever get Lance Berkman healthy, that would be huge. But, you know, you think about what they accomplished last year over the last 5 weeks of the season, and you just can't count them out. I know it's a different manager, a different pitching coach, and, you know, they're not exactly the same team with Pujols no longer there. But for most of those guys in the clubhouse, having done it last year, they think they can do it again.
Yeah.
Curveball stays out of Bourne, and it's 3-2.
They'll probably have that feeling of just stay close, and this will make a run.
Ready for a few happy flights.
That's right. Furcal is the one that brought that over there.
Right.
By the way, their shortstop.
3-2 to Bourne with Ugley at second and 2 out, and Bourne grounds one down to Davis, and so Bourne retired for the first time tonight. And Jeremy Hefner gets through the top of the 5th, halfway through at Citi Field. 9-1 Atlanta. A question. Best record for doubles in a season held by that famous man in black, Bernard Gilkey.
Gilkey played for the Cardinals too, right?
Yes, he did. Good changeup by Chris Medlin to start the bottom of the 5th inning against Andres Torres, who singled to right to drive in a run in the 2nd inning. By the way, Mets club record for doubles in a season, 44. You know what the all-time record is?
Tris Speaker got it?
No, I think he has the triples record.
Okay.
The doubles record belongs to a guy named Earl Webb for the 1931 Red Sox. He had 67 doubles in 1931. And here's the interesting part. He never had more than 30 in any other year.
Really?
And he had 67 in that one season. Kind of like Norm Cash. Didn't he have that one year he hit like 360 and didn't hit 300 the rest of his career.
Davey Johnson with the 43 home runs.
Brady Anderson, 51.
31, huh?
Swing and a miss. And Torres is down on strikes. That's 6 now for Chris Medlin.
Well, nice running fastball there by Chris Medlin. I mean, I've said about every pitch you could say. I've said a running fastball, a sinking fastball, a changeup, overhand curve.
Now Josh Tolley grounded into a double play in his only at bat. Justin Turner's come out on deck to bat for Hefner. There's ball 1 to Tolley. So Hefner turning in 3 2/3 innings of long relief, giving up a run on 4 hits. And you got to have that guy occasionally to save the rest of your bullpen. Manny Acosta will be the next man in. Game in which the Mets were behind 9-0 before they could blink. 2 runs in the first and 7 in the second.
Notice that the pitchers with Josh in the past month or so, every at bat they move his feet. Every at bat. Knock him off the plate, go back away.
Two for Medlin, and Tolley slaps one foul. Sunday, going to break down at the Jets' first preseason matchup against the Bengals. Not so good. Plus, go behind the scenes with Jets defensive line coach Carl Dunbar, mic'd up on Jets Nation Inside Camp, presented by Melrose Credit Union. New episode Sunday at 7, only on SNY. And Tolley is down on strikes. Medlin now rolling his 7th strikeout, just 2 shy of his career high. So now Justin Turner will bat for Jeremy Hefner, and we check in with Kevin.
Well, guys, Turner's one of those guys. You know, we talked a little bit of him last night, obviously coming through in the clutch in those situations, but also, you know, kind of dealing with that role, being the guy in the clubhouse that likes to have a little fun when it's called for. And, you know, I talked to him about that whole thing. He said, look, of course, everybody wants to play every day, but you look at the infield, you've got 300 at third, 300 at short, 300 at second, and 20 home runs at first. I understand why I'm not playing. And, you know, as far as his role otherwise, likes to laugh, likes to get guys to laugh. He said, listen, if I was ever out of place, and a guy came up to me, a veteran came up to me and said, hey, tone it down, I absolutely would. But I learned a lot when I was in Baltimore from Miguel Tejada. You know, he liked to laugh. He liked to kind of make fun of yourself a little bit off the field. It's such a long season. And then the ultra professional on the field. Billy Harris was the same type of way when he was here. And I thought that kind of fit my personality. He said, you know, guys come in every day and, you know, they want me to be the DJ. They ask me to set the mood. So I'll play different tunes depending on the day and try to make different guys happy, whether it's country one day or rap another day. I just try to lighten it up. I certainly know there's a line. I know when to compete, but I think those guys are important, you know, just having that ability to come in off the bench like Justin has done all year and also kind of be that guy. Certainly knows how to be professional, but to have a little fun too.
Well, Justin knows how to have fun, and he knows how to lighten the mood, that's for sure. It's been a very different role for him this year, playing a lot less than he did last season.
You need those guys to make up for the surly ones. And I included myself in that group. Well,
I was just thinking,
once every 5th day.
When you said surly, the first guy I thought of was our buddy.
Yeah, number 17. Prince of Darkness at times.
He could be surly. Not anymore. Now he's like Mr. Sunshine. Toward the hole and cut off by Chipper Jones, and the running toss gets Turner, and Medlin has himself a 1-2-3 inning. 5 in the books at Citi Field, 9-1 Atlanta. Is brought to you by the American Red Cross. The Mets and the American Red Cross are teaming up to help save lives. Donate at Citi Field on August 18th from 9 to 5. All presenting donors will receive 2 free tickets to the September 17th Mets game.
He didn't look queasy at all.
Didn't know you could get blood from a baseball. That's very good. Manny Acosta comes on to pitch the 6th inning.
Manny Acosta has been in his last 3 outings, 2 2/3 innings, no runs against.
Reed Johnson takes a strike. Johnson 2 for 3, a single and a double. He scored a run. Braves 9 runs and 12 hits. The Mets 1 run and 3 hits. Jeremy Hefner 3 2/3 in relief, allowed a run on 4 hits after Johan Santana got knocked out in the 2nd. Johnson, Hayward, and Chipper Jones for the Braves in the 6th. And Acosta, the former Brave, dents the outside corner, and it's 0-2. Well, the Braves putting together a high-powered offense this season. Last year, their offense sunk them as they were in position to get to the postseason and took a sharp nosedive over the last 5 weeks of the season. Grounded to shortstop, and Tejada's in front of it. And you know, having watched the Mets collapse at the end of the 07 season, you know that when they get to September, the Braves are going to be at least conscious and also be constantly reminded about what happened last year. And then the question is, can they survive better than the Mets did the year after their collapse when they let it get away again?
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be the big question. And you're right. They're going to have to answer that question every city that they go to. I think they're in a little better position this year because they're hitting the baseball. And last year, their offense, like you said, was stagnant. The other thing that's different this year is that Venter's missed some time, which means he missed some appearances. So getting to September, he's going to be much stronger. And, of course, always monitoring Kimbrel is one of the keys. You know, that bullpen got a little worn out last year, and I know that they're aware of that.
Murphy in front of the ground ball. Almost took too long, but got Hayward by a half a stride for the 2nd out. Checking with the studio, Jonas Schwartz is standing by with this game break. Now Chipper Jones is 1 for 3 on the night. Chipper drove in a run with a 2nd inning single. That was the hit that knocked Santana out of the box. And Chipper hits one into the stands. 0-1. Let's check in with Kevin.
A couple things on Chipper Jones. First of all, the topic you're talking about the collapse. He said, you know, I thought we learned something from that last year, and I think it also fueled us this year. I got that sense, but certainly time will tell as they get to September. You know, he was having a little fun yesterday. Obviously, he's got one more trip to New York as a member of the Braves. So this is last season. Talking about the Larry chance, guys, and how much he actually enjoys it. He said, you know, I go to other places, and a couple other places try to do it, and I turn around. It's like, come on. I mean, you're ripping it off. Like, for example, if I go to, say, Cincinnati, and a guy down the street comes up to me and calls me Larry, I'd have an issue with it. But here, I kind of like it. Murphy retires Chipper. Gary, take it away.
3 ground ball lines for Manny Acosta. That'll take us to the bottom of the 6th. Top of the order coming up with the Mets down 9-1. fielder do you think has the most potential for a very successful major league career? Ike Davis, Daniel Murphy, or Ruben Tejada?
And obviously, we're not including David because
Well,
he's already had
he already has that.
Had and is. Will. And
so text to 56812 or at SNY.TV. Let us know who you think has the biggest upside. Let's start the third time around the batting order against Chris Medlin. Tejada is 0 for 2, grounded out and struck out. Mets have had just 3 hits off Medlin over the first 5 innings. Tejada, Murphy, and Wright come up here in the 6th. All 3 of the Mets' hits came in a 4-batter span in the 2nd inning from Davis, Baxter, and Torres to produce a run. Since then, Medlin's retired 10 of 11. Chris Medlin, just his 3rd start of the year after 38 relief outings. And he has acquitted himself quite nicely again. Went 5 1/3 Sunday against Houston, was limited to 79 pitches. As Tejada bangs one up the middle, and the Mets have their 4th hit of the night. So Tejada, who had a 14-game hitting streak stopped last night, starts a new one tonight. I was going to say with Medlin, 79 pitches in his last start as they've tried to stretch him out, so they probably will let him go 90-95 tonight. Probably not a whole lot more than that.
Relief, and now with this start, 14 1/3 innings pitched by Medlin. Only 2 earned runs given up against the Mets.
Starting to get interesting in Pittsburgh, where native New Yorker Jason Marquis has no-hit the Pirates through 6 innings. He's got 70 pitches through 6 innings, 1 walk, 4 strikeouts. So Marquis making a bid. Tough to do against any lineup that has Andrew McCutchen in it.
Right.
Huh. Murphy's been up twice, hit comebackers both times. Lined, caught, Ugla to first, double play. Well, Murphy hit a bullet. Ugla snagged it. Tejada doubled off first base.
You know, it's a hard base running play. You have to do it. You have to freeze on any line drive. Not able to, but he didn't get out there that far. Just a fine defensive play. Right at him. Good hitting by Murph, but it's a right at him ball. And Ugla got rid of that about as quick as you're going to see. Credit to Ugla and Freeman on that play.
So 2 out and nobody on. Now David Wright, who's been up twice and struck out both times, swinging in the 1st, looking in the 4th. Tell me if you've heard this story before.
Okay.
In Philadelphia tonight, Cliff Lee and the Phillies led the Cardinals 1-0 going to the 6th. Matt Holliday, 3-run homer. Cardinals 3, Phillies 1 in the 7th. I mean, that's been Cliff Lee's season all year.
It's Groundhog Day for him, or Groundhog Night most of the time.
Jose Avilan up in the bullpen. Excuse me, Luis Avilan up in the Atlanta bullpen. And his debut against the Mets last month.
And he's a guy, Cliff Lee, that has had a career of getting the right out.
Giannis charging, stumbles momentarily, but still throws out right to end the inning. We head for the 7th. It's been all Atlanta all night. Seventh inning, Freddie Freeman, who's had the biggest night for the Braves, leads off against Manny Acosta and takes a changeup for a strike. Freeman had a 2-run double against Johan Santana in the first, a 3-run homer off Jeremy Hefner in the second. Freeman 2 for 3 on the night, facing Acosta, who misses low. A ball and a strike. There are your city probables for tomorrow night's final game of the series. Ben Sheets, who is carving one of the great stories in baseball this year with his comeback. John Neese goes for the Mets tomorrow night. Sheets was sitting at home playing with his kids in the backyard, and somehow he was able to finagle a tryout and passed it, and a couple of weeks later was in the rotation for the Braves, and he has not looked back.
4 wins they've gotten out of a place that didn't know it was going to happen.
Well, sometimes when you have a magical season, those are the things that have to happen for you. I mean, Sheets has been injured so often in his career, it's almost like you're waiting for the other shoe to drop. But so far, he has had great health, and while he may not throw quite as hard as he did in his heyday with the Brewers, he's looked awfully good. The Mets saw that firsthand in Atlanta last month. Strike 3 called. Freeman caught looking. So Acosta has his first strikeout. 1 out of the 7th.
Good pitch here. 3-2 down the middle, knee high. Usually a pitch. That's the pitch that he covered against Hefner.
So 1 out and nobody on. Now Brian McCann, who's been up 3 times, and he is 0 for 3. So the guy who won the burger eating contest tonight, is he going to another contest before the evening is over?
Where would it be?
I don't know. He's already won 2. There's got to be a late night burger eating contest somewhere. It's Saturday night in New York.
White Castle's got to be open late.
Now I can be competitive there.
That's your place, right?
I mean, I may not feel great in the morning, but you know, you give me a couple of dozen White Castles, those are gone in 15 minutes.
My kids love White Castle. I don't get it, but I tried one.
You're not a White Castle
No.
guy? See, I grew up with a White Castle around the corner from me in Queens.
Yeah.
And my mom never liked us to go there, but we would finagle our way in every now and again. And it was the greatest treat.
Now, what's the ancillary stuff? Is it shakes? Is it fries? Or just the burgers?
I'm a burger guy all the way. No cheese and no ketchup. 1 hopper for Davis to handle. 2 out and nobody on. It used to be that you went to White Castle and you asked for, you know, a dozen burgers. You say a dozen White Castle.
Yeah.
They give them to you with, you know, the onions, of course, and the pickle, the one little pickle that goes in the corner.
Yeah.
And that's it. Now, if you don't ask differently, they put ketchup on, which I think was a very, you know, a step backwards for the White Castle.
They probably had 15 meetings for that.
But the good thing is now, if you ask for them with no ketchup, then you get them, you know, fresh off the grill.
Oh, that's a good way to do it.
Dan Uggla takes a strike. Fries are good too at White Castle.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Can't go down that road. I tried once. I felt sick to my stomach.
I think that's part of the experience.
Oh, it is? Okay.
It's part of what you crave.
Oh, okay.
Uggla's 1 for 2 and a walk. And a check swing, and Uggla goes around 1 and 2. So Keith was here before the game judging the burger eating contest.
That was more interesting than the guy eating many burgers. I think you said emceeing the event.
Right. You don't see him as the host with the most?
He's changed. He definitely has. That's MC is not one of those things. It used to be a time that spending a lot of time around lots of people was not his forte.
By the way, our statistician Dave Freed, who's on top of everything, has researched this, and as I suspected, he has found 4 burger eating contests in New York today.
4.
So our buddy Joe, who won the contest, only won 2 of them.
4 burger eating contests in one day.
It's a big city.
Gee.
Got 5 boroughs. Got at least 4 burger eating contests. Strike 3 called. Ugla caught looking, so 6 up and 6 down for Manny Acosta in relief. 7th inning stretch time at Citi Field, 9-1 Braves. Cadillac. Bronson Arroyo got the win. Ryan Ludwig had the big hit. Reds rally to beat the Cubs 4-2 at Wrigley. Matt Holliday hit the 3-run homer off Cliff Lee. 3-1 Cardinals over the Phillies in the 8th. And the Diamondbacks lead the Nationals. Aaron Hill with a home run off Edwin Jackson. That is in the bottom of the 3rd in Arizona. We're going to the bottom of the 7th inning here at Citi Field, and let's check in with Kevin.
Well, it certainly will be interesting to watch this battle in the NL East between the Braves and the Nationals. And you guys have been talking about it all game long, really, about what this team went through last year, this Braves team, and then the collapse and coming back this year. And how will they react going down the stretch and in September? Well, I mentioned the comments from Chip and Jones a little while ago that it fueled them, it motivated them. I talked to Johnny Venters. Of course, part of the issue with the Braves is their bullpen fizzled out a little bit from overwork. And, Venter said, I'll tell you what, there's a good chemistry group here. And look at how the early part of the season went for us. We went on some pretty good losing streaks, but we didn't get flustered in that time. I think that's a good thing for us. As Bourne will have a beat and retire Davis for the first out. As far as the bullpen goes, Venter said, I got to be honest. I know I had a lot of games. I felt physically fine. My location was not where I wanted it. It was a bad time for me to go in that type of slump. And Freddie Gonzalez said this. He said, yeah, I understand we're in a much better position this year, but that's because of our offense. Last year, the lack of offense hurt our bullpen. What were we supposed to do down the stretch? Are we going to put, David Ross in the pitch? We had to go with our guys that got us to that point. They're in a much better stretch, and Tommy Hanson goes out on a rehab start tomorrow. So things setting up for them a little bit differently this year, guys.
Well, no question they've got a little more depth in that bullpen. Christian Martinez has been an underrated guy for them and has been able to absorb some of the innings that their big three might have pitched last year. And Scott Hairston taking a strike.
Well, they made some interesting decisions coming out of spring training. They had Livan Hernandez in that bullpen early to try to eat up some of those innings. He was designated for assignment. But you're right, Martinez with that good changeup has been outstanding.
Hairston has flied out and struck out tonight. He hits one toward the hole, and Scott's got a base hit. Just the 5th hit off Chris Medlin tonight. Well, before the season began, we identified keys for all of the teams in the National League East, and these are some of the ones that we mentioned. Will they bounce back? Well, we still don't know until they get to September. Will Jason Hayward return to his rookie form? Well, that certainly has happened. Freddie Freeman, is he going to be the next superstar? Heading in that direction. And heading in the direction of the Braves dugout is Chris Medlin. After 6 1/3 solid innings, Freddie Gonzalez will make the pitching change. Medlin leads with a 9-1 lead. We'll be right back. '23-year-old lefty Luis Avilan comes on in relief. Jason Bay bats for Mike Baxter and takes a strike.
He's done a nice job, Avilan. He's only given up 1 hit in his last 5 appearances and no runs.
John Roush up in the Mets bullpen. Harrison at first and 1 out. And Bay takes a fastball for a strike, and it's 0-2. Jason was 0 for 3 last night. By the way, Travis Snyder got a hit with 1 out in the 7th against Jason Marquis, breaking up his no-hit bid, but the Padres up 5-0 as they go to the 8th. And Bay goes down on 3 pitches. Avilan comes in to strike out Bay for the 2nd out.
Well, 2 pitches taken for strikes, then this little changeup fades away. And that pitch on the outside has not been a pitch that Jason's been able to handle at all.
We saw Avilan make his major league debut against the Mets last month in Atlanta. Came in, struck out Ike Davis, the first man he faced in the major leagues. Here's Andres Torres with 2 on the runner at first, and he takes curveball for a strike. Chris Medlin threw 89 pitches over 6 1/3, allowed 5 hits, only 1 run so far, a walk and 7 strikeouts. And unless there's a major development, the Braves are going to win for the 14th straight time that Medlin has made a start.
17-4 in his 21 starts. That's some good luck charm, isn't it?
Well, part of it is that the Braves have a terrific offense. Part of it is that the Braves have a great bullpen. We saw a stat yesterday that just knocked me between the eyes. When the Braves were here to start the season, the Mets swept the series from them, and in the 3rd game of that series, the Mets won 7-5. Since then, the Braves have not lost a game in which they've scored 5 or more runs. If they win today, and it looks like they might, it would be the 46th straight time that they will have won when they've scored 5 or more runs, which will be the longest streak since the 1906 Chicago Cubs.
Wow.
who won 51 straight games in which they scored 5 or more runs.
That's like the stat for Hudson, right? When he gets 4 or more runs in a game, he never loses, or practically never loses, and now the Braves are doing it.
So they've got offense and they don't waste it. I mean, I think we'll have to go back and check and see how many games the Mets have lost this year when they've scored 5 runs. The Braves are second in the league in runs scored. The Mets are 6th. But their pitching has made it stand up. Corey Guerin up in the bullpen for the Braves. Here's the 1-2, and Torres slaps one foul. Our next broadcast on SNY will be Tuesday night when the Mets start their series in Cincinnati with Chris Young on the mound against Matt Latos. Mets and Reds from Great American Ballpark, 6:30 Tuesday night right here on SNY.
I could be wrong. I got a quick count of 5 since the All-Star break.
Fastball off the plate, 2-2 to Torres. Andres 1 for 2 tonight. He drove in the lone Mets run with a second inning single. Unofficial count, 14 games the Mets have lost in which they scored 5 or more. Swing and a miss. Torres out on strikes, so Avilan comes in, registers back-to-back strikeouts, and the Mets are done in the bottom of the 7th. 9-1 Atlanta going to the 8th. Have dinner with us and catch the game in the SNY Suite at Citi Field on September 12th. All proceeds will benefit the high school basketball teams playing in the 2013 SNY Invitational. Bid today at sny.tv/charity auction. Jason Bay stays in the game in left field after pinch hitting. Scott Hairston moves from left field to right field, and John Roush will pitch the top of the 8th.
Well, John Roush, since the end of June, although he dropped that throw from David Wright, the end of June, 28th of June, in fact, has pitched 11 2/3 innings, only given up 1 earned run. So he has gotten better since June.
Last night retired the only batter he faced. Paul Janisch will be his first man up against him. Perfect outing for Manny Acosta, 6 up and 6 down in relief with a couple of strikeouts as Janisch stops the swing, and it's 1-0. Janisch tonight 1 for 3, a single to center, scored a run in the second, and then flied out twice after that. If you're just arriving at your television set, Johan Santana did not last long in his first start back from the DL as Janisch hits one deep to left, sending Bay back to the warning track, and that's the first out of the inning. Janisch making a bid for his first home run of the year and coming up a little bit shy. Let's check in with the studio. Jonas Schwartz standing by with this game break. Now Luis Avilan will get a turn at bat. Not often that your left-handed relief specialist gets himself a turn at bat, but he's a .500 hitter. A ball and a strike to the 23-year-old Venezuelan, who was pitching in Double-A when he was called up this year. And he pops one up in foul grind. Right coming over, has plenty of room. And that's the second out.
We failed to mention, or I failed to mention, that Chris Medlin, one of the few switch hitters you see in baseball, batted right-handed off Santana, and then the rest of his bats left-handed.
Carlos Zambrano,
yep.
Switch hitting pitcher.
Joaquin Andahar, my generation of pitchers.
Doc Gooden, wannabe.
Wannabe, too.
Here's Michael Bourne, who's 3 for 4 tonight, had his 3 hits in the first 3 innings.
We just saw the good doctor with the unveiling of the All-Star Game logo. It's always nice to see him. He's got that smile that makes you want to smile,
Always has, and always will, even in the worst of times.
Yep.
And fortunately, these are good times for Doc.
Yeah, real good.
0-2 to Bourne. 11 in a row retired by the Mets bullpen. Slamming the barn door after the horse is gone. One and two now to Bourne. Your Verizon text poll results: which Mets infielder has the best shot at a successful career? Nearly half of you think it's Ruben Tejada.
Wow.
Who has had himself a splendid year at age 22. Offensively and defensively for the Mets. And now a full count to Bourne. Reed Johnson would be next. Now the 3-2, and he struck him out. So John Roush works a 1-2-3 inning. That's 12 in a row for the Mets bullpen, but an 8-run deficit for the Mets to try and make up. leadoff against Luis Avilan, who came in to get the final 2 outs in the 7th, striking out both Bay and Torres. Tolle tonight has grounded into a double play and struck out 0 for 2. Ronnie Cedeno out on deck to pinch hit, and then Ruben Tejada for the Mets in the bottom of the 8th. Mets have been held to a run on 5 hits tonight. Chris Medlin was splendid again as a starting pitcher for the Braves. 6 1/3, 1 run, 5 hits, a walk, 7 strikeouts.
Yeah, his longest outing.
Got up to 89 pitches, so they're continuing to stretch Medlin out and looking more and more like he's wanting to be a fixture in that rotation. Whether that's going to come to pass or not will be an interesting call, because Tommy Hanson will be coming back pretty soon. There's Ronnie Cedeno on deck. Frank Francisco ready to get an inning of work in the Mets bullpen. And Tolle hits one past the pitcher, but Giannis stationed perfectly to throw out Tolle, 1 away. New York Mets baseball on SNY is brought to you by Hyundai. New Hyundai owners are talking about their cars in the booth. By New Era, the official on-field cap of Major League Baseball. And by Parts Authority Auto Parts Superstores, where the answer is always yes. Second time tonight that I've gotten completely distracted reading the billboards because of what we have going on in the background. Some nice old Shea Stadium footage. Corey Guerin up in the bullpen for the Braves. Here's Ronnie Cedeno to pinch hit against Avilan, and he takes a curveball for ball 1. Cedeno started at second base last night, went 0 for 3, but he's been a hot hitter since the All-Star break. And he punches one foul, and it's 1-1. Ronnie's old team, the Pirates, trailing 5-0 to the Padres going to the 9th. Cincinnati having already won today. If Pittsburgh loses, they'll be 4.5 behind.
Padres have played better since the break, haven't they?
Well, the Mets were witness to that firsthand. In fact, the Padres have won 5 in a row, and they've won their last 10 games in Pittsburgh, dating back to 2009, and trying to make it 11 in a row tonight. Downside for the Padres, though, they apparently have lost Houston Street for a significant period of time. Street strained his calf on the final play of the game last night. 3-1 now to Cedeno. And that's inside. Cedeno on with a 1-out walk. That's something that would not have happened in prior years with Ronnie Cedeno. I mean, forget about the fact that it's a 9-1 game. Yeah. He just was not inclined to stand around and wait. He was one of those swing from the time he gets out of the dugout kind of guys, and he has changed his game.
So much, in fact, that when you start to look at the players that you want to keep around, Ronnie's one of those guys, don't you think?
Yep. Well, he's perfectly cast as the backup middle infielder. Here's Tejada, who singled to center field his last time up, 1 for 3 on the night. That was only the second walk issued by Atlanta pitching tonight. And Tejada lines one down the left field line. That's an extra base hit going to the corner. Cedeno to third. He'll be waved around. And the throw to the plate by Giannis not in time. An RBI double for Ruben Tejada, and now it's 9-2 Atlanta. Second hit of the night for Tejada, and his 19th run batted into the season.
Well, good hitting by Ruben right here. Trying to come inside. He wouldn't allow it. Laces it down that left field line. Good hustle by Johnson to get to it. And then he gets it into Giannis pretty quickly. But still, Cedeno had enough speed. That one bounce cost Giannis control of that baseball.
And then he double clutched it. Otherwise, he might have had a shot. And McCann was doing a very good job trying to deke Cedeno into thinking there'd be no play.
Well, I think he did deke him because he didn't slide. Not saying that he had to slide because it wasn't a close play, but
if Giannis doesn't double clutch, there would have been, which would have been awfully embarrassing. Down by 8 runs. Murphy yanks one down to first, to foul ball. Murphy's 0 for 3 tonight. A couple of comebackers, and then last time up he had a bullet to Uggla at second base. And Tejada got doubled off first. That's now with 2 runs and 6 hits on the night. Fredi Gonzalez will be very happy if he can stay away from his prime relief pitchers tonight. That means, of course, Venters and O'Flaherty and Kimbrel. And the goal for Fredi is to use those guys as little as possible in non-crucial situations. And as Kevin was talking about earlier, they have had more games this year where they've had some breathing room, and that has helped him. Right at Giannis. And he throws out Murphy for the second out as Tejada goes over to third. Now Fredi Gonzalez heads out to the mound. He'll bring in a right-hander to face David Wright with a 7-run lead. I think he had to wake somebody up in the bullpen to let them know. So Guerin will come in the game. Mets down 9-2 in the 8th. Pitching change for Atlanta. We'll be right back to Citi Field. Series with the Braves concludes. Visit Mets.com or call 718-507-TIXX for your tickets now. Side-arming right-hander Cody Guerin comes in the game for the Braves.
Well, in the past, many of their seasons, the Braves were fortunate to have a sidewinder from Australia called Peter Moylan, and he was fantastic in that role, and Guerin trying to fill it now.
David Wright, first man to face him. David's gone 0 for 3 tonight, 2 strikeouts and a groundout. Tejada at third with 2 out. Mets have scored a run here in the 8th. And David hits one toward the middle, and that sneaks through for a base hit. That chases in Tejada with the second run of the inning. David Wright drives in his 74th run of the year, and now it's 9-3.
Well, he got the ground ball he wanted, but what happens with these sidearmers is that they can't feel their position because their follow-through brings them towards the first base side. Right up the middle by David, clean base hit.
So now Guerin will have to face the left-hand hitter. Mike Davis tonight has swung the bat well, had a base hit in the 2nd, walked in the 4th, and then hit a deep fly ball to center in the 7th. 1 for 2 on the night. Freeman playing behind Wright at first base. And Davis hits a ball past the mound, and Giannis has this one and makes the unassisted force play to win the inning. Mets get 2 runs back, but still trail 9-3 going to the 9th. Francisco comes in to get an inning of work as we go to the ninth.
Well, Francisco got in for a mop-up inning, too, and didn't make it through the inning against Miami in that 13-0 game.
Well, bad news on the mound for the Mets tonight here. Santana goes an inning and a third, allows 8 runs and 8 hits. Good news for Mets pitching in Buffalo. Zach Wheeler in his second AAA start. 6 innings, 1 run, 2 hits, 3 walks, 4 strikeouts.
Is he in line for the win?
I don't know the answer to that question. It's about development in the minor league.
I used to be a pitcher. I'm all about the wins.
I am told he is not in line for the win. Left in a tie game.
Okay.
Reed Johnson leads off in the 9th inning for Atlanta and takes up an in from Francisco.
That's the second best scenario. Nelson Doubleday.
No decision.
Yeah.
I got you. Jason Hayward on deck. Chipper Jones behind him in the top of the 9th. Braves got all their runs in the first 2 innings of this game. Mets bullpen has combined to retire the last 12 Braves. Manny Acosta 2 scoreless. John Roush a 1-2-3 inning. And now Francisco. Jeremy Hefner gave the Mets 3 2/3 innings of long relief tonight, allowing a run on 4 hits. And Johnson swinging at that high fastball, 1-2.
Whenever I see Reed Johnson play, and he's certainly not the same kind of player. There's Ben Sheets pitching tomorrow. Reminds me of Wally. Reed Johnson. You know, and they're not the same kind of player. Just that gritty, never take an inning off kind of play. Although he goes down with a strikeout here.
That's the first out of the 9th. Let's check in on what's coming up on WB Mason post-game live. Jonas Schwartz and Bobby Ojeda, guys. Here's Jason Hayward, 1 for 4 on the night, single to drive in a run in the second. It's over in Pittsburgh. Jason Marquis, complete game 2-hit shutout. Padres beat the Pirates 5-0.
And A.J. Burnett pitching again tonight. Lost that ball game. I know we said a lot that Burnett was pitching the game in Pittsburgh last night, but he wasn't.
He did strike out 10 tonight in 5 2/3, but gets the loss. And there's the splitter from Francisco for a strike, 1-1. So the Reds stretch their lead to 4.5 over the Pirates in that National League Central. And if the Cardinals win tonight and they're up 4-1 in the 9th inning, St. Louis will be only a game and a half behind Pittsburgh for that second wild card spot. So what to this point has been a magical season for Clint Hurdle and the Pirates is now a season kind of on the edge. They are at that point where it's going to go one way or the other with 7 weeks to go. Hayward chops one out toward Tejada, waits on the bounce, the quick throw not in time. Just too much time in the air on that chopper by Hayward, and it's an infield hit. SNY's Super Slow Motion brought to you by your Mercedes-Benz Tri-State dealers. Visit them on the web at searchmercedes.com. And Chipper Jones. The Live Sports Bureau put out a very interesting look at Chipper's career today. He's now 40 years old. When Chipper was in his 20s, he had a .302 batting average with 226. Excuse me, a .306 batting average with 230 home runs. When he was in his 30s, he had a .302 batting average with 226 home runs. So he hit over 300 with over 200 home runs in his 20s and again in his 30s. The only other players in Major League history who have done that: Babe Ruth, Lou Gehrig, Ted Williams, Hank Aaron, and Manny Ramirez. Wow. Chipper Jones, the 6th player on that list. It just gives you an idea of his longevity and his consistency over 2 decades of play.
He's got more years than anyone with the same team, right? Active, 18 now with the Braves.
Doesn't happen too much anymore, does it? The George Bretts, the Tony Gwynns, the guys who are able to play with one team their entire career.
Ripken.
Mets have never had that guy.
No.
And hopefully David Wright will be that guy. Hayward at first with 1 out. And there's strike 3 called. So Tripper's caught looking. Francisco with a pair of strikeouts in the inning.
Really throwing hard tonight is Francisco. I think giving up those couple of runs in that blowout the other night really stung.
Now Freddie Freeman, who's done his damage tonight, a 2-run double, a 3-run homer. Those came in the first 2 innings. As the Braves got 2 in the first, 7 in the second, and have coasted since. And the splitter low and in to Freeman, 1-0. The Nats, who are going for their 8th straight win, have scored 4 times in the 5th inning, and they've gone in front of the Diamondbacks 5-4. Everything is going right for the Nats right now, despite the fact that Bryce Harper's numbers have tailed off. In fact, he's not even in the lineup tonight. But their starting pitching is so good every day that on the occasion like today, when Edwin Jackson didn't have a particularly good beginning to the game, their firepower is there to bail them out.
It's just amazing to me that all the talk about Strasburg and the innings and this and that, they had no problem putting the 19-year-old in there for every game. You know, I mean, that's a stretch, having to play such a big role. No, I think they're going to try to find him a place against a tough left-hander to maybe give him some time off.
So you're saying pitch counts for young outfielders?
I'm not saying pitch counts. I'm talking about mentally what it takes to play this game over the course of 6 months is a little different than the AAU traveling squad.
3-2 now to Freeman.
And, you know, everywhere he goes, everyone wants to talk to him. It's a different experience than being just a normal run-of-the-day rookie.
Well, it's easier now. It's easier now for them to give him days off because they have Jason Worth back. In fact, Worth sitting leadoff tonight for the Nats, has a couple of hits. That team has only gotten better as the year's gone along. Now the 3-2 to Freeman, and he fouls it away.
I don't think I've ever seen anyone put a pad to protect himself on his leg where Freeman has it.
Right on his, below his knee.
Yeah, it's channeling like volleyball or something.
He's a digger?
It's like a pirate eye patch or something. I don't know.
Again, the 3-2, and the curveball sits high for ball 4. So Freeman's on with a 2-out walk. So 2 out and 2 on, and Brian McCann coming up. Brian has been the only Brave stymied tonight. He's gone 0 for 4 and has not had the ball out of the infield. But since 2006, no catcher in baseball has more home runs. No catcher in baseball has more RBIs than Brian McCann. And he yanks that one foul.
And this All-Star weekend or week, it's the first time he's out off in a while, and his dad and his brother have always been his biggest fans. His dad has been a pitching coach in high schools and colleges, and they said that they broke him down all the way. He said, "Dad, how do I stand? Let's start there. How is my stance? Now let's work from there on." That's how lost he felt.
Well, the good thing about Brian is that his eyes are okay, because that was a big concern last year. Something he really had to wrestle with, and gosh, if your eyes are giving you trouble, it's awfully hard to play this game. Hayward at second, Freeman at first with 2 down. Mets don't want Francisco to throw many more pitches than this. And so they've got bullpen action. That's strike 3 called, and so he won't have to throw any more. 3 strikeouts in the inning, all looking for Frank. We go to the bottom of the ninth, 9-3 Atlanta. Here at Citi Field on a Saturday night at the ballpark. That's one happy little kid.
Yeah, right.
Scott Hairston will lead off in the last of the ninth against Corey Guerin, who came in to get the last out in the 8th. Coming up tonight after the postgame on Geico Sports Night, Zach Wheeler, his second start for Buffalo. The Jets with some hurts coming out of their first exhibition game, and CC Sabathia on the shelf. All coming up on Geico Sports Night after the postgame on SNY.
Yeah, we didn't talk about that. CC going on shelf after getting a win. You know, he's had a bad groin, which put him on the disabled list. And, you know, it comes a time where you have all these innings under your belt. And he's a big guy that takes the ball every 5th day. And, you know, it's going to be interesting to see how he can come out of this.
And of course they need Sabathia in the worst way come October. I don't think there's a whole lot of question the Yankees will be playing in October. They made an instant move though to fill the void, at least for the moment. They signed Derek Lowe, who had been let go by the Indians this week.
That's a good move. You never know what you can catch, you know, for a 4 or 5 start kind of deal.
Well, Derek pitched very well early in the season for Cleveland when they were playing well, but they've gone straight down the tubes and there was no need to keep him around.
One of the keys for veteran pitchers who are at least in the November of their career is that you need to get on a good team, a team that catches the baseball, a team that scores some runs, and certainly has that with the Yankees.
2-2 to Hairston. Final in Philly, the Cardinals beat the Phillies 4-1 behind Jake Westbrook. So St. Louis does shorten that gap. They're now just a game and a half behind the Pirates for that second wild card spot. The Braves are in the first wild card spot. They can move 3 games in front of Pittsburgh with a win tonight. 2-2 to Hairston, and the breaking ball inside from Guerin. 3-2. Jason Bay on deck, and then Andres Torres as the Mets bat in the last of the ninth. With a loss tonight, the Mets would fall 6 games below 500 for the first time this year.
They would have lost 11 of their last 12 games here at Citi Field.
Had that 9-game home losing streak stopped on Thursday. Hairston caught looking and disagrees with Chad Fairchild. That's the first out.
That's one of those frisbee sliders that Guerin throws that just is off the plate. Starts inside, You know, I don't know. Too close. It's not a good pitch. It's an ugly pitch. It's a pitch usually not called for a strike, but it's 9-3. It's ninth inning. Sometimes it goes against you.
Mets have struck out 10 times tonight. That's becoming a common occurrence. Here's Jason Bay, who struck out as a pinch hitter in the 7th and then stayed in the game in left field. Guerin trying to finish it off for Chris Medlin, who went 6 1/3 tonight, in line for his 3rd win. Andres Torres standing on deck. Mets with 3 runs and 7 hits tonight, but the Braves built a huge early lead. And Bay went around, and it's 0-2. Tampa Bay wins again. 2 home runs for B.J. Upton. They beat the Twins 4-2. That's 5 straight wins for the Rays. And the breaking ball, strike 3 called. So Bay strikes out on 3 pitches for the 2nd straight at bat. And the Mets are down to their final out. Here's your Home Depot doing more on defense. When you don't have to do anything, that's doing more.
Oh, I thought that was a heck of a catch by McCann.
Just the way they draw it up in the textbook. So 2 out and nobody on now. Andres Torres, and he takes a low one away. Torres singled in the first, Met run in the 2nd. Since then he has struck out twice. And he cracks one to right center. That'll be in for a base hit, and the roll all the way back to the wall. Torres heading for 2nd. He's going to take the turn and go for 3. And he will make it easily. Andres Torres with his 5th triple of the year.
And Gary, you mentioned earlier in the game, another 2 hits from the left side, another 2 hits pulled to the right of second base, and another hit with power.
Now, the Mets only have 15 triples this year. They're last in the National League in triples. Torres has a 3rd of them. Nice to see Chipper helping out with the coaching.
Chipper telling him to stand up.
Well, you know.
Yeah, you do that in a game like this.
Well, next year he might be a coach.
I don't think so.
Maybe for his kids' Little League games.
Well, maybe for that, yes.
Josh Tolley's 0 for 3 tonight. We mentioned the strikeouts tonight. Braves pitchers have struck out 10. That's the 10th time in the last 22 games that Met hitters have struck out 10 or more times. And that is starting to add up.
Going to the phone is Roger.
Now Guerin with the 1-1, and Tolley grounds one to Ugla, and that should do it. And so the Braves, on the strength of 9 runs in the first 2 innings, 8 of them charged to Johan Santana, rolled to a 9-3 win. And Atlanta's taken the first 2 games of the series. The Mets have lost 21 of their last 29 to fall 6 games under 500 for the first time this year.
Well, that's really going to be the discussion after the game, is the tough outing for Johan Santana. But Michael Bourne and the rest of the Braves had a lot to say with that. 7 hits out of the first 3 hitters. Freddie Freeman with a couple of hits, a home run, and 5 RBI. And Freddie Gonzalez, who's had this team that's lost 8 straight, lost 7 out of 8, has kept a cool head, and he's got this team playing real good baseball right now.
Braves now 19 games over 500, hoping to pick up some ground on the Nationals tonight. Santana with a rough outing in his return from the disabled list, and the Mets get thumped by the Braves 9-3. More from Citi Field in just a moment.